Scene/Chapter 12. From purpose into action. Yay man! Make the move. A purpose needs more. Sitting and reviewing his news package, Bob is reminded by a snapping Pac-Man bubble that snap judgments often lead to regrets for those whose only exercise is jumping to conclusions, and remembers his chi training that he cannot bypass the steps as there are no intuitive leaps that can be taken in that domain. Bob notes the path he needs to take to solve his problems is becoming more clear. He backtracks and does some more internet research until he is disturbed by a phone call from Dick asking if he wants to meet. Bob asks him if there is any problem as he has not called him for years. Dick says he never calls as they always see each other in the market anyway. Bob senses that Dick is uneasy about something. When they meet, Dick hugs him like some long-lost lover and asks where he has been as it has been weeks. Bob says, "Steady on, chap. It's only 2 weeks, I wasn't well," and Dick is suspicious and does not believe him. Dick Emo is more self-aware than most people through a lifetime of hallucinogenic drugs and booze, often saying that his brain is his favorite toy. Dick is unfortunately bounded by his self-centered me approach and treats new awareness with suspicion and is immediately wary of everything by initially considering it as false if it does not directly affect him. However, his selfishness has allowed him to develop self-awareness to a higher level than the average person, just like those who take some selfish religions to extremes but fool themselves that their charitable or philanthropic actions are false and are part of some selfish self-fulfillment. They sit and have a beer. Bob begins to see an aura form around Dick, although it is uncontrolled like some water fountain. Bob uses it to see inside Dick and finds he has a sense of fear, appearing as some dark ghostly smoky figures whipping around inside his aura. Bob cannot see what it is, so expects it is Dick creating fear from objects that are not normally considered objects to be afraid of, like some bad acid trip. Bob tells Dick that all is okay and that hits all the right spots in Dick's worries. Dick asks how Bob knows he is unsettled. Bob just says, "I just do. And it is also written all over your face." Dick immediately looks at himself in the distorted reflection from his beer glass and pulls a face at himself. Bob tells Dick that he is doing some research that could implode on him, and it seems to be involved with the disappearance of Siri and Pooh. Dick freaks out and says that there are deep nasty things out there in the jungle, but he then assures Bob that he is there for him, if he needs him. Dick Emo appears again as an example of a suspicious person driven by his desires. He says many things we are told are untrue, they are false. Good things don't last, so make the most of them while they are there, as bad things linger. As we say when shopping here, by now or tomorrow it will be gone. Bob agrees that the news is manipulated, but it is not good to be totally hedonistic, as that is selfish and it is generally antisocial behavior. They drink and chat and laugh about a few things, and Bob leaves Dick in his jug of beer as Bob goes back to his apartment. At his workstation, his girlfriend's pictures appear on screen in flashes. As Bob moves away, his girlfriends appear in his mind as chi flashes around him. He stops in his tracks on his way to get some coffee from the kitchen. It is as if his girlfriends are trying to instruct him. He goes back to his workstation and in a kind of meditation uses Google Maps road maps to fly route south to the coast. He then uses Google Earth satellite view to fly across sea to get to several islands and then hone in on one of them with what appears to be a factory complex in its center. This island appears uninhabited except for the complex and has a man-made canal with a container crane connecting it to a deep river-type tidal lagoon and mangrove swamp in a geographical feature that is formed from a split mountain which then connects to the sea. The natural features of the island hiding the complex and any moored ships from sea view. However, even though he has found this place with very little personal input other than holding his mouse wand like a divining rod, he also gets a feeling that his girlfriends have worked out what he is up to and are trying to keep him away, as the maps fail on several occasions and zoom off to open sea locations. Bob sits patiently and waits and uses his newfound chi energy to focus on what he wants, which are zones of concentrated chi energy that would indicate a large group of practitioners. He is experiencing many jumbled feelings of a strong chi field on the island, but also of his girlfriends emitting a stronger warning, but more a feeling of them trying to protect him. Their words ring in his ears from times he has watched them work on their martial arts training with no need for embellishment. We have what we have learned to survive, we need nothing else. And when you have ruled out the impossible, whatever is left, no matter how improbable it is, it must be true. When he thinks deeper, Bob realizes this kind of deduction is what makes Bob realize he is on the right track. Bob realizes looking at his mind map that they arrive at conclusions by eliminating all competing theories that have holes until only one remains. This is fine for cutting away the nonsense for discovering and understanding, unless the competing theories are not all the available theories and the real answer was never even considered. The girls use this in their martial arts at lightning speed to avoid an attack that may come from any direction and use its energy to deflect itself. Bob notes that direct deduction often fails to look for situations in which many alternative truths exist. For example, trying to work out who it was ate your last bit of cake in the fridge when it was shared around by one person and eaten by all. They all point at the other for eating it without lying, and the person who shared around something that was not theirs to share goes free. Bob is wriggling around theories and conclusions on his mind map, performing risk analysis and risk mitigation on the accuracy of all the data he has by assigning risk points to each bubble and letting his software plot paths of greatest and least probability. He eventually becomes convinced, via several directions of attack pointing in the same direction, that the CEO auntie and he has been investigating has a connection with his girlfriends, mainly through the statistical correlations that occur. He concludes that they are on the island in the middle of nowhere among 1,000 islands in tropical Southeast Asia, generally marked on most maps as populated by headhunters and pirates who steal oil tankers. Not the kind of place anyone but an explorer would go, and indeed a place for some offhand operation. Bob notes that Auntie Ant's corporate developments and the potential extent of the scientific and sociological investigations on her, and the appraisal of the events concerned with investigations about her, that she has created her position by the global infiltration of many established corporations. That her core corporation has performed well by using inside knowledge from her personally trained and appointed whistleblowers as corporate spies. He highlights with certainty, more like mind blowers she has put in place to monopolize all areas she needs to support her plan of global domination at a sufficiently high level to be able to continue her research, which she treats like some over-pampered exotic pet. He emphasizes a bubble that he has to get to her somehow. Bob has always found his work has relied on proving projects to a high level of certainty. He has always used this method of a high level of probability to proving certain answers towards finding out what is going on. Even if he has not been allowed to report it, with the sly wet bosses saying he is making waves with their sponsors and to desist before they remove their sponsorships, he has done it to get results for himself. It is when they squash case-proven stories Bob gets angry and is then called difficult and petulant when he says it is tsunami that are needed, not the fly-blow propagandist triples they produce. He notes in a bubble certainty is based on a high probability of occurrence of correlated relevant proven facts, and adds a smiley that he is achieving this. Bob notes he is attracting the attention of the person who is holding his girlfriends by the reactions he is getting on his internet searches and chi energy, but has no direct proof he can use in the news story. He only has a load of very pointed leads which he puts up as a spiky bubble named Auntie Ant. He put up a bubble go for it when he has lumped together all he needs. Bob calls his local journalist contacts to seed their minds about what he is doing, being careful not to tell them exactly what he is up to. When they naturally ask, as he has wound them up knowing they are naturally suspicious, he knows he has got to them by using the standard method of propaganda, which is by directly leaving out the part of the story of what he actually wants to say, and that they will know what he is doing. He does this by asking their advice on who to rent a helicopter to take him out to sea, on a story concerning viewing and getting some pictures of some oil platforms and offshore refineries concerning pollution. Bob feels good he is finally moving forwards, being directly goal-oriented rather than trying to create a long-winded performance to keep up appearances.